Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, there was no countdown this time, and welcome to episode 145 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan, I am your host, and with me, as always, is the new Widowmaker himself, Darick Oswald. Darick, I know what I did in Flesh and Blood. Did you do anything?
I cried a little bit. So my local store that's trying to start doing more with Flesh and Blood, poor Rick, and I love him. I was trying to explain this to him. He did an event on Saturday that was classic constructed, and winner got a Perthimus Veil like gold pack, right? Oh, and okay. He was a little disappointed with the turnout, and I had to explain to him, I was like, hey, it's probably because like anybody who would have traveled for this is probably just traveling for the world premiere. And he's like, wait, that was this weekend? I was like, yeah, everybody's in Tampa. And he's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel bad because he's trying, but I lead off with this story because I also contributed to the problem. I was intending on attending. However, Sophie's friend has had a wedding on Saturday, and I had my days mixed up, so I could not attend.
None of y'all know what date it is. And...
No, I really don't lately. That's why I was messaging you, because I thought Josh Scott was this week, not next week. I am very turned around by a bunch of like work stuff, and then also just travel planning, trying to finalize stuff for the family Italy trip, and the work stuff. Like tomorrow we have this big department wide, so like the entire Department of Treasury for Michigan like picnic thing, and I lead a team, but my staff is primarily remote, but they're all coming in, and there's other stuff that I'm still trying to coordinate that I thought was going to be tomorrow, but it's not, because we have to get fingerprinted because of our sensitive access to data every often. Yep. Yeah, like there's just so much. And then like I've got an LPI thing that I'm going to be a part of for like the next 2 weeks. So I'm everything's kind of a blur to me right now, and I've decided I'm trying to just take it like 1 hour at a time. Like, what am I doing for the next hour?
Yeah,
because I've just been wrong. Like I've just been consistently wrong every time I even think I know what day it is. So yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. But.
Yeah, I definitely feel that with especially the work stuff, where I've been like, it was such a mess. I got home at like 1 a.m. last night, or this morning, I guess I should say, and from Tampa, and I like knew that I wouldn't be able to sleep unless I knew what my day was going to be like. So I logged into work at 1 a.m. so that I could handle some things up front. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what is this? Why is this? And I just realized, and I had a conversation with a peer of mine today, and it was entirely the conversation of, I feel like I'm fucking flooded. I just don't have like the time, the ability to make sure that I feel caught up. And her response was, what do you mean you feel flooded? And I then brought everything up. She's like, oh, right.
Because you're flooded.
I'm not the old, because she's equally or more fucked. And so her thought was like, you're not that bad. And then I kind of brought it up. She's like, oh, right. I forgot about all the things that we're not cross involved in. Because she was just thinking about the things that we're currently both involved in, and not the things that we split off, so that we can actually get things done. And yeah, it's been a bit of a mess, but that's not this show. It's not the work show. No. Thank God. This is the fun show. And unless you are a fan of literacy, then we have some bad news, because we do have a banned and restricted announcement. We're going to kind of take the news in the order it came, which this was a big one. I'm going to preface this. I posted something on Twitter that along the same lines, but once again, big trust.
Yep.
And this is very much so looking at the long-term health of the game. And I think that that's important to consider when we are talking about everything that happens. So first, let's get everything out of the way. So in Classic Constructed and Blitz, effective now, today, actually, the day we're recording on, September 9th, banned in Blitz and CC are Art of War, Bonds of Ancestry, Cash In, or Orion of Mystic Tenants, Tome of Aetherwind, Tome of Divinity, Tome of Findle, and Tome of Firebrand. That is, that's 5 books, a book in real life, and a couple of mistakes. So, well, one mistake. One, Cash In wasn't really a mistake. It's just, they go into it. So let's start with kind of the elephant in the room. And the entire banned list outside of Bonds of Ancestry and sort of pseudo Bonds of Ancestry is getting around the breaking of resources and economy in the game. And having a card that effectively could net you value very easily, so draw twos was basically where they're going with this, was draw twos, were hampering design space and also causing brutal game states where it became a oops I lose or oops I win type of scenario, and the feeling in design was that it stopped rewarding good decisions as much. So that's sort of the TLDR. It's a very long article, but it's all very detailed with all of the rationale behind the changes. And I encourage anybody that cares to listen to it. Also, restricted in Living Legend, Bonds of Ancestry hit the list. So you can play one copy of a card named Bonds of Ancestry.
Right.
Which means one card, period.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of each color, one copy. So Darick, I don't think we need to go through these one by one, really, outside of maybe Cash In, but the overall, when you read this, where did you wind up? Where did your head go?
I was kind of all over the place. I know that I messaged you and I had said I was surprised that they did it. I really never thought I would see Art of War go. Not just because like it's an iconic card of the game, kind of almost since it came out. Obviously, it wasn't in the first set, but also just because there are a lot of strategies that were kind of only viable because of Art of War. And perhaps those strategies are a net negative long-term for the game, and that's why they're making the correction. I just look at this. So my first reaction was like, I was shocked they did it. Then I'll be honest, I was a little scared because as weird as it sounds, I don't play any of the heroes that benefit from those cards that were banned.
Any of these cards, not a single one.
Right. But the heroes that I enjoy playing have traditionally been good because the heroes that use those have been good, right? So Guardians are usually really good into ninjas. Assassin, especially new as of late, has been very good into ninja as well. And if those heroes fall in popularity and I have to, just for devil's advocate, say, play against a bunch of brutes in my near future, I feel less confident about those matchups, especially on my assassins that I like to play. So I'm going to have to do some new testing, figure out where my comfort zone is. Maybe I go back to the drawing board. I do like to play Runeblade. I played Chain a lot when I very first got into the game. Aurora does look like a lot of fun from what I've seen. So maybe I'll give that a go. But I was shocked. Then I was worried. And then where I landed ultimately after I had, more time to marinate on it is that I think it will, like, long-term probably be a net positive for the game, just because I think one of the most skill testing things in the game is figuring out what to do with your limited resources. That tension that a 4-card or, 5 with the arsenal or whatever, but that tension that a 4-card hand gives you where you're trying to figure out, what do I block with? What do I use as a resource? What do I use on offense? How do I navigate this is what drew me into the game. Obviously people enjoy doing powerful things, so other things are fun, like when, like I said, I played Chain at the beginning, and when you have a 9-card hand counting all the stuff in your banish zone, it feels really good because it's powerful, right? But I like the design aspect of the limited resources that this game was kind of built around, so I do think that will be good. Where I am uncertain is because we've already had several sets. There's, I would argue, a number of heroes that were kind of built on the existence of those cards. And I don't know what they can do, at least in the short term, to address that. So there is a part of me that does have empathy for my ninja players. I'll be honest, even kind of the Kano players, I think that they'll still be fine, but I think people are going to underestimate how good the book was for them. Especially when you are in that like back against the wall, I have to combo or I die situation, because they can really extend your turns. There's just a lot of heroes that, even if you're not talking about the extra cards, a lot of folks on the internet, they call it the Anthem effect. If you're not familiar, you don't come from Magic the Gathering, there was a card called Glorious Anthem, and it was just a blanket like +1/+1 to your entire team. So in this game, cards like Art of War, they would refer to them as an anthem because they give all of your attacks +1 attack. There's not a lot of those. And so when I look at things like, even when I'm not talking about combo lines, right, but like the entire Crouching Tiger suite feels, in my opinion, pretty bad when you don't have things that buff like your Crouching Tiger.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's very similar to the Phoenix Flame stuff. Now, Fi already has kind of, I think anyway, a really interesting sub package with Phoenix Flames, and I think he's 1 or 2 cards away from making that feel really interesting. I think he might land the best of the ninjas with these changes, but there's just a lot of stuff that has been built and designed with those cards in mind up until this point, and it will probably take, if I'm being honest, a year, maybe even 2, for things to balance out and catch up as a result.
2. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say 2 because it's one of those things where you don't know where in the design process they decided they were going to make this change, right? Is this a change because of where things landed and now it's going to take 2 years because of, design dev cycles? Or did they already know this was going to potentially be a problem, so this was like on deck, and maybe they started saying, hey, if we go this route, so maybe it's a year? I don't know. Obviously that's something that like Brian or somebody on the team would have to answer, but either way, it's going to take time, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's where I am. And I know that's really like long-winded, but I really did kind of go through this mix of like, it was shock, worry, just because, again, I think that some of the classes that are going to benefit from this are ones I traditionally struggle against. I'm looking at you, Brute. I think Brute's going to be very, very strong, especially because Blood Rush turns out is not a book.
Not a book. 3 of a Kind is also not a book.
Yeah. But 3 of a Kind has been, I think Voltaire really was the
culprit
there.
Yeah.
And there is, in my opinion, a big difference because it limited what you could play for the rest of the turn. That's the big thing with 3 of a Kind. And I think that if we get more quote unquote draw a card type things, it'll be like that in the future, where there is a limit. Like you can draw stuff and it helps you dig to find what you need, but all you'll be able to play is what you need, right? So 3 of a Kind is like, I need to find arrows. So you find some arrows, but that's all you can do is play arrows for the rest of the turn, that sort of thing. Yeah, I just really, I think that we don't know how this is going to affect things for a minimum a year out. That's where I'm at.
My counter to Fi being the best ninja is something we'll talk about later. But right now, I think you're probably like, it's a lot.
Yeah, the best adult ninja right now. I'll say that. I'll say that.
Not for long. But there's a lot of things that feels like they caught strays, right? Cash-in's not super oppressive right now. Kasai ran it sometimes, and
I'll be honest. I think that was.
I think that's Victor. I think that's Victor and Olympia splash damage.
I was gonna say. I think it's Olympia.
Yeah.
My psyop theory. I know I joke and I say everything is psyop, but
because it is.
I think that even though Olympia got that cool, like I can equip things from the fridge boost. I think that his real payoff stuff hasn't quite come yet, and they were just nipping it in the bud because of reasons.
Right. Right. So I look at this list. The ones that obviously stick out are that we thought Art of War was one of the sacred cows of the game. That they would never touch CNC, Sync, Fate, Art of War, and Light and Strike. Like those were effectively the cards that were going to have carte blanche, and those were over here. They're safe, and they're not. We found that out. They're not.
Yeah, they are not.
Also, the one that I was interested in seeing in here, like, so Bonds needed to go. I think we all agree. Bonds, sure, get the fuck out of here. Trying to design any ninja around that shit. We've seen what it does.
Yeah.
Hard pass. Again, cash in, I think, is because of specifically Olympia and Victor. We know what it is in Kasai. It's okay. It does make for some big turns, but you do other things better. So while cash in is still super useful and you want to play copies of it a lot of the time, it does get boarded out. It's not a card that is a linchpin in the deck. It blocks 2. Fuck that thing. Get it out of here when you have to. But Orion of Mystic Tenants was the one that got me because it's a brand new card. It did not last long. I mean, it lasted longer than Dustblade, but it did not last very long. And it wasn't even like an ubiquitous problem card in lists, right? And in Blitz, yes. In Blitz, Zen Blitz sometimes, but not even every deck played it. And not even the only decks that like consistently played Orion were probably I think it was Enigma. I think that was it. So, that being on here makes me go, okay, they just recognize that that's a design space card. Like having to design mystic talent cards and look and go, hold on, how fucked up is this with Orion? And so that feels like this was the most preemptive of the bans. Like the most, we need to be in front of this now, and we just can't do this anymore. Interesting enough, Tome of Imperial Flame's not on there as well, which is a book. But
it is a book.
It is the problematic hero for Tome of Imperial Flame had involved that existed was Dromai, and no longer in CC. Seems fair-ish, not really in Living Legend, but nothing is really fair in Living Legend. It's not designed to be fair. So Plunder Run Dromai is a fucking thing and pretty terrifying. So yeah, I think that what they did here is very interesting. It makes sense. And I talked to a lot of people that are very involved on all sides of this. So I just talked about it a little bit with Peter and Majin Bay about Tome of the Aetherwind. I mean, obviously both thought that that's a big hit, but it doesn't kill the deck. Watching Dalen's cycles about Tome of Divinity in person was amazing, because it was like, Prism is dead, Tome of Divinity is gone, you can't win anymore. Then, well, there might be some things that you can do, so the deck might still be okay, but I'm going to start building Florian. To, hey, what is this shit? What does a Vincent do? And then back to, so somebody described to me that with Prism, you just do the 747 thing. And I'm like, yeah, you herald for 7, you angel for 4, you herald for 7. He's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Like, okay, we're back. As he was picking up Prism cards, like Angelic Wraths and Celestial Reprimands.
Right.
Okay. So I got to see that one in real time. I talked to several Dash players, including, with Aiden Wisniewski from 3 Floating, and Rachel, Max Ferocity, again, noted Dash simp, as it were. And Tome of Final being gone was like, yeah, that's bad, but we have so many other tools that it's fine. And so those all seem totally reasonable. So I think the big tent poles on this one really are Art of War and obviously Bonds needed to go. I've always been wrong about this, but I've always had concerns about design space in Flesh and Blood and just get wrecked every time that I talk about it. And so in this case, it feels a little rewarding that they acknowledge that they are limiting their own design space. But I think that this is also a clear sign that they really care about the player experience. They really care about the game itself and what the game should be, and aren't going to just shrug their shoulders at things and go, oops, well, I guess it'll be fine at some other point. So I was a big fan of this pretty much right away. I thought that this showed forethought and a depth of care that you don't usually see out of card games. Oh, yeah. Wait a sec. We need to do one dial back from last week really quick. We had a question, a listener question last week of no spoiler, Riot ? Well, now that we're getting a Riot physical card game, do you think we can get a spoiler?
No.
Oh, never mind. We still Riot then.
That's the short answer.
I just wanted before I forgot about that to throw that out there. Because there's a Riot card game coming. There's another physical Riot card game coming.
Yeah.
Now.
It seems that it's just going to be in China, but
yeah. So yeah, I guess that's our take on the ban discourse. If anybody has any other comments or questions, feel free to ask them. Be more than happy to. So next ban is restricted announcement is actually after Worlds, directly after Worlds. So brand new meta, brand new life. We'll see what happens. I think this will be really interesting. There's a lot of new toys out there, new heroes. Speaking of new heroes, though, you did have the Rosetta World Premiere in Calling Tampa. I was there, and this set's kind of wild. not gonna lie. There is a lot of degenerate shit happening, but this was as a sealed game set. This felt the best Fab is felt in sealed, which I'm not a huge sealed person because it's always a lottery, and this isn't much different than that. This is still lottery. You still need to open the right things to make a functional deck. None of this has changed, but it does feel a little more put together. I will say that usually in most limited formats, including most sealed formats, I should say, not limited in general, you end up with a default hero. It does feel like that's Florian in this because you can just play an aura, gain some life, and swing for 4 every turn. And that's a pretty good baseline. And there's a lot of fatiguing, accidental and otherwise. There's a lot of fatiguing. I was impressed with Aurora and her ability to present these big, wide damage turns with some relevant on hits. And there are some fucked up cards in this set. Electromagnetic somersault, or whatever the hell it's called.
What is that called? I know which one you're talking about. I'm going to pull it up real quick.
So
this was one of the reasons when I was like, man, maybe I do kind of want to play Aurora because what I was seeing, it was like, man, yeah, it's
electromagnetic somersault. And so I'm going to read the card. So just real quick for everybody listening, it's not on my 5 list of things I want to talk about, but I do have a story with this card. So it's choose up to 2 attack action cards with cost whatever or more, red, yellow, blue. So 0, 1, 2 on the active chain link, return them to their owner's hand when the chain link resolves. So it's an instant. And so you can block with 3 blocks and then bounce them back to your hand when the chain link closes and block with them again. That's a thing you can do. You can attack with a 0 cost and then bounce it back to your hand. But here's what happened. There's a card named Twinkle Toes. Twinkle Toes is destroy this, prevent the next 2 damage that be dealt to you this turn. Activate this if you've only played an instant card this turn. So I was at 1 life. My opponent was playing Verdance, had Verdance turned on, and was gaining a life, but there's no active chain link. So I was just like, okay, play this. And immediately I go, but hold on, call a judge. Judge, can I do this? Judge is like, yep, it's an instant. You can do this. Other judge behind him is like, well, it does say active chain link and there's no chain. And then time just stopped for a few minutes as the beehive started buzzing about what this actually did. And one of the judges that I know from another Discord, and I just finally met her in person this weekend, really cool. And she was just like, they say this and they're going to rule that way. I think that, but I'm not sure. And then we're all kind of not sure. I'm like, fuck it. Take a picture of the card, send it to Josh Scott. Does this work? I got an answer a couple hours later, but that's what playing this set felt like sometimes was, hold on, can I do this? And there were several interactions that were like that. And that makes it more fun, I think, personally. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I also really enjoyed some of the big turns and like the swingy things you can do if you kind of plan things out right. And it gets silly really fast, especially like if you turn either Verdansk or Florian on fast, that shit gets bonkers. And there's also just sometimes you just have 18 zaps.
Yeah.
That's it.
That seems fine.
That's the deck. It's 18 zaps.
That's the deck.
And so there's a lot in there. Draft is very interesting because there's just drafting Florian. Okay. And I will say, I'm saying this in not tongue in cheek. I'm saying this in all honesty. I am too stupid to play Ocilio. I am rocks fucking dumb. So I tried and nope, that ain't it. I don't know what I'm doing. Aurora felt fine. Florian felt fine. I waited until the last event to play Verdansk and determined that's fucking stupid. Like Verdansk is incredible, especially if you just have a decent amount of life gain cards.
Sure.
I gained 23 in my Verdansk mirror, and yeah, they did not have near that. And I just
in damage, yeah, especially with the limit to deck size, which I still think was a good change overall.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's some opening, thinking back to last week, if there was some opening in design space where you could actually have different eligible deck sizes for heroes in limited. But because like with Aurora, you're getting fatigued pretty fucking easily by a Florian and sometimes. So, but if she could play 40 cards and Florian could only play 30, that might change things, but I digress. That's a different topic, but it's also like this felt like a very tricksy set. So whoever kind of understood their cycle and understood specifically with Aurora, their sequencing the best was highly advantaged. And then pitch stacking becomes very important when it becomes a fatigue game. So that part was also a big deal. And there's a ton of fucking 3-for-7s, 3-for-8s. I mean, there are big chunk damages, but there's a ton of life gain in the set too. So, yeah, it's very, I think it's a very interesting set. And I think that, I look forward to, I mean, I've played 5 sealed decks with this already, and we'll definitely play more. But really looking forward to drafting. I mean, I'm always looking forward to drafting more than anything else, but in this case, I definitely am looking forward to drafting this set. I think it's going to be very interesting.
I'm so excited. I know that it's less relevant to like the limited experience because they show up less often, but I will also say, as somebody who wasn't at the event and I was trying to live vicariously through all the posts and whatever, I was very excited by some of the Majestics that were finally shared. Really got like the old deck building juices flowing. You were talking about bouncing cards back to your hand and whatever. When I saw Gone in a Flash.
Yeah.
So Gone in a Flash and Eclectic Magnetism, which I every time I see it, I want to say Electric Magnetism. Like
Woogie.
My my brain just reads it that way, but I know it's eclectic because I've had to catch myself. Those two, when I saw them, I was like, oh, this is like, it reminded me of when when she was released and people were figuring out all the fun things you could do with Spellbound Creepers. Those two cards are like creepers on steroids, in my opinion, because of all of the stuff you can do. Gone in a Flash in particular is somebody who, I enjoy the assassin play style of the Willy Woney sort of thing, right? The, you're banking, I probably have an attack reaction, but what is it? Or what happens if I don't? And then I pivot and I do something else. And because Gone in a Flash very specifically says may, I do love the like playing it and then going, will I play an instant? If I do play an instant, am I going to bounce this? Like, do you overblock? Do you not? Everything about that. And then again, the eclectic magnetism. When I first saw it, I was like, that's cheeky. But then when I remembered all of the Spellbound Creeper stuff, I was like, oh, right. If my non-attack has go again, I'm getting, action points. And so this doesn't have to have go again for me to continue. And then I was like, oh, I actually love this card. Like, this is kind of insane. Also, the art on it is art on both of those is really, really good. But
yeah, sort of across the board, honestly, with the set as per usual. A lot of out of this world artwork, especially in person, in a lot of these cards were the Marvels were all gorgeous. And fuck my wallet. When there's Marvel Rosetta Thorn, there's Marvel Old and Young Briar, or Adult and Young Briar. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
I thought I was getting out of this set relatively easy, and then I realized I have to buy 4 cold foils.
Right.
At a minimum.
Yeah, there's that too. And then some of just the cards in general are just so incredibly powerful, and we'll get into those here shortly. But I think my overall impression with the set, especially in limited, we'll definitely see, I think, all of these heroes in constructed and making some impact. I think the latest to the game will probably be Verdance, but I think the two that will make the most immediate impact are actually Aurora and Acilio. Florian, I think, is a deck building puzzle, and it's going to take a lot of dedicated people to understand whether or not the decompose matters.
I'm going to give you my insight. This is how I plan on building Florian. 100%. I've already decided. I am going to wait until I see what Charles Dunn does, and then I'm going to copy him.
That's probably a good idea. And that's probably a very good idea. But
it just screams, like, I don't know why. Like, Florian just screams Charles Dunn to me, and in the best of ways. And so I'm really excited to see if he does anything with that hero.
Because you can literally build Florian exactly the same way that Beefy Briar was built.
Well, probably better. Like, if I'm being honest,
probably
better.
Because some of the decompose stuff gains you life. Some of the decompose, like all of the decompose stuff, has insane abilities stapled to it. Yeah. And if you're blocking with Earth cards anyway, it just decomposing is free. So, it's.
Well, and
there's a lot going on.
There was that other Majestic. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but there's the one where it's like you can keep getting an embodiment of Earth as long as you're banishing your card. Like
Earth's Embrace. Yep.
Yeah, sticks around. Just I was like,
keep doing it. Yep, just keep doing it. And sure.
If I hit with my 3 for 7, but it has decompose and I can keep my banished chain going, then that means between the embodiment it makes and the one from my on hit, from the attack, let's assume, that makes because there is like a couple of ones that have the on hit of making embodiment in this set, right? If I remember right. So like you can just turn everything into your, block for 4, block for 5, all your stuff being, sink belows or.
Yeah. I think Earth's Embrace may be more of a Verdance card just because of Verdance's ability to make embodiments off of her weapon. Lets you do multi-ball block, and then you're blocking for 4s and 4s and 5s with your non-attacks. I did that a couple of times. It is not friendly, but yeah. And so let's get into the cards a little bit, because all of this is pretty incredible, to be honest. We'll just do all the legendaries and the fabled. Let's get those out of the way here. So we'll start with my second favorite legendary in the set, Barkskin of the Millennium Tree. When this defends, if there are 4 more Earth cards in your banish zone, create an embodiment of Earth token. It's just block 2 temper. That just makes an embodiment.
So
great.
So it's realistically, like, assuming that you're getting the value from both blocks and both embodiments, you're looking at, like, this essentially has 5 minimum,
Correct.
like 5
minimum
defense.
5. Yeah. Nope. 100% true. And
insane.
Yeah,
it's just, I would also like to point out, it's just Earth. So if you're looking for like more insane things to do in like Living Legend with Oldhim, and you just feel like really going defensive, like with this and Crown of Seeds.
Oh, you can.
You can.
You 100% can.
So dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb. The next one is feet are free on Flesh and Blood cards yet again. This one's Iswardi's fault. It's Lightning Greaves. So it's Lightning, 1 block, Battle Worn, Arcane Barrier 1, Wall of Text. Instant, 1 pitch, instant, destroy this. Instant cards you play this turn get go again. So this is the stacking of action points we talk about, where just stack up a bunch of action points.
So this, I was going to say, this kind of reminds me of, and I love the design of this because of it. This is also, it's just lightning, so it can be whatever. But it reminds me of like a cross between creepers and storm striders.
Sort of, yeah.
It's not quite, but it's close. And the fact that it is likely going to be really versatile for people like Aurora, and again, potentially Acilio, because we don't even know for sure how he's going to be built yet. And then you take that versatility and you pair it with the fact that it's got 1 defense with Battle Worn and the Arcane Barrier on top of it. This is just like, when I saw this, I was like, this is just a fantastic piece of equipment.
Yeah, it's such an easy include. Again, it feels like we just replaced a bunch of Null Rune for a lot of different classes. And so here, if you're playing Lightning, you just would never play Null Rune Boots again. You would just play this because it has versatility. It can still block, for fuck's sake, and has versatility plus an effect that could, let you have one of those big turns, right? Interestingly enough, this is also probably this one's probably on the list of reasons why Art of War is gone, because this would give Art of War go again.
Yeah, because that's what Art of War needed. Right.
So you can all choose 3 modes on Art of War. Yeah, right. Like, this is probably on the list of reasons that had to go. But again, and then A+ artwork from our good friend Iswardi Theriento. So Ejor Charmer owes you money again, or will shortly, but not from this one.
Well, maybe. I don't know. If I end up playing Aurora, definitely, because it's probably going to make the cut.
Yeah. Now we're going to go to my favorite legendary in this set, because this thing's fucking stupid. It's Face Purgatory. Art is incredible.
Art is. Let me just shout out to Maz real quick. Art is fantastic. I saw this and I
gasped.
Yeah. It is very well done because it sounds so silly, but like the simple thing of just doing the slant on the perspective, and then also you do the mirror, but it's not a direct mirror, so whatever's on the other side of the mirror is its own entity, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the tilt is different. Just everything about this thing I love whenever they do like the pun stuff with the equipment. So the fact that this is a headpiece and it's Face Purgatory also makes me tickled.
Makes you giddy.
Yeah.
I like giddiness. But yeah, so this one got me when I saw it. Like I said, I gasped audibly. It is a block 2 Runeblade equipment head. Blade break, so just the one time. When this to get defense together with an action card and a non-attack action card, that's an attack action and non-attack. The attacking hero discards a card, and you draw a card.
Yeah, what's cooler than the Flesh Helm for brutes, where you intimidate when you block, making them get rid of the card, just period.
Right. Just making them go away. Now, I had a good conversation with Dagan White on the drive home from the airport about this card, because a lot of people were comparing it to Scowling Fleshbag, and kind of rightfully so. He did point out, the conditional nature of it makes it maybe not awesome, but the fact that a lot of the times this is just how you're going to block 8 on a with an embodiment in play on a non-attack, that's a block 2 non-attack, and then a block 3 attack, and then this thing, and then making them ship a card so they don't necessarily have an arsenal or whatever they're going to do, and then also you go back up to 3 cards again and still have a functional hand. Like, it's kind of everything you want when you want it.
When I saw this, I first thought that this is actually something that I think somebody like Vincent would be very happy with, where you're already kind of struggling with your hand and riding that line between defensive and offensive anyway. And this gives you a little bit of both. I also, when I was thinking about, like, sometimes in Flesh and Blood, cards are good just because they give you good raw numbers value, right? They don't do anything like necessarily flashy. They just are very efficient. And like you were saying, this card to me feels very efficient because it's really a block for 8+, because a lot of times when you're using this, very much the same way that when you use Stalagmite to block, right, when you're playing Oldhim, it's not just the 2 that you block, but it's also what you stop with the disruption, right? So this, if you're blocking with, the 2 cards that are going to be blocking for 3 in this, you're blocking for 8, potentially plus. But because you get a card back, it's also kind of like saying, hey, as long as I block with this and the right cards, I'm really turning 1 card into a double value, right? I'm turning a 3 block into a 6 block because that second card's going to get replaced. Right. And when you think about it from that perspective, it's like, yeah, that's actually really efficient, right?
Pretty incredible.
I really like this card.
It's really good. Painfully good. And again, I agree. Shout out to Tomas on the art. It is phenomenal. But
I mean, Tomas was already on my list because they've done a bunch of assassin stuff in the past. Like, I know for a fact they do solitary confinement and like nerve scalpel. So, but this one was pretty.
Yeah, that's my favorite legendary from the set. I don't know
it's my second favorite.
We haven't hit your favorite yet?
I haven't hit my favorite yet.
Okay.
And it's not my favorite for like reasons that make a ton of sense, but like I just can't.
I know which one it is.
Yeah, you have to know which one it is.
I know which one it is. But next one is Aether Bindings of the Third Age. This is Wizard Equipment Arms, so goes into the arms slot. And this is a Battle Worn 1 block, so it blocks.
Yeah.
And then instant destroy this until end of turn whenever an aura permanent you control with sigil in its name leaves the arena, amp 1. Okay, so I don't know how to evaluate wizard cards. No clue. And so I opened this at the world premiere. And I was sitting across from Larissa. And then Majin walks over and is talking. I'm like, hey, I opened this. And he's like, I opened the wizard arms. I don't know if they're any good. He's like, oh, can I see them? I'm like, yeah. And I hand it to him. He's like, thanks. And just walks away. I'm like, now I know it's good. Okay. Yeah. I understand now. This is actually good. Because it's an instant before your sigils pop to leave play, you can just play. You can instant this and then activate Volzair or whatever it's called. So you can just have amp 8 going on or what the fuck ever you want to do if you're Auxilio. Also, if you have the thing that bounces sigils, you can activate this and then bounce the sigils, gain all the amp, and then start using the sigils again.
Yeah, the bouncing thing was what I first thought of, because I was like, you activate this, and then if you bounce them and then you replay them and then you find another way to either destroy them or whatever, then you're getting double the triggers as well. This feels like a more setup but more reward alternative to the Metacarpus. Right. And then also the Battle Worn is probably very welcome for wizards, I have to imagine.
Yeah, I believe so. And like with things of like let's say you're peeling Eternal Infernos off the top of your deck, and you're able to figure out a way to generate action points. I think we saw a couple, and it's like with instant sigils. Wonder how you're going to do that. And you're able to just Eternal Inferno it's 1/4, deal 4 arcane damage to any target. Surge, if this deals more than 4, banish it. You may play it this turn. So you can just start blasting a lot with a setup. So yeah, it's I think this is actively good. Red is actively good to me, and then a noted wizard player tried to steal it, so I'm pretty sure that it's just good, but we shall see. I'm interested in what glyph builds look like, or sigil builds look like. I think they'll be very interesting, but I think that they need to be Ocilio based to really get the high value out of them. But if the sigil you're bouncing I think it's Sigil of Aether is the one. Nope, it's not Sigil. It's Sigil of Aether. There's one of the sigils. I think it might be Ocilio's. Arc Lightning, blah blah blah. Sigil of Brilliance. Nope, that's not it. There's one of the sigils that basically. Maybe it's a glyph and not a sigil, which would make me sad. But either way, there is one of them that does a Kano activation when you use it.
Oh yeah, that one is it's the temporal manipulation. It's got the cover or on the art.
Yeah, it's a book.
It's a book.
It's a book. So we know it's going to get banned eventually, but it's a book.
Right.
But that's not a sigil, right?
No, it is. It's Sigil of Temporal Manipulation.
Oh, then yeah, that thing. Yeah, you just do that. And you Sigil of Temporal Manipulation and have fun. Like, I think that's...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's something we can do, right?
Probably.
I think this is good. I think this is actively good. I guess we're moving on to Charmer's favorite legendary of the set. Arcanite Fortress.
Yep.
Now I think this is probably your favorite because of the implications.
It's because of the implications, and also I have I'll be honest, I miss the days when like Arcanite Skullcap was relevant.
I think we're back.
I do think that we're back for a couple of reasons. Obviously, arcane damage is kind of making a bit of a comeback. We've had
drawing cards is not, and so Balance of Justice isn't as good.
We've had, I was going to say, some indirect hits to cards like Balance of Justice. We also have, I think anyway, this is a bit of my prediction, but I think we have a meta coming in the future where every point of health matters, and or covering break points for on hits is going to matter a bit more as well. And so I do think that there is potentially some tension between whether you still just go back to Crown of Providence, or if the 1 extra health / 1 extra cover on a break point is going to be tempting from Skullcap. I think people sometimes overlook how important those can be. So with that in mind, getting a card like Fortress to just give you a potential benefit for running it alongside, and it having kind of insane implication for if you ever get gloves and boots as well, feels really fun.
Card's text is it's a generic equipment chest. This card's defense is equal to the number of equipment you control with Arcanite in their name. So at this point in time, it's Guardwell, so it's Guardwell 2. But that's not all. It also has Spell Void X, where X is the number of equipment you control with Arcanite in their name. So the implications are that if they do make Arcanite, like let's say they make an Arcanite gloves, Arcanite boots, an Arcanite rapier, and an Arcanite shield. Block 6.
Or Spell Void
6. Yeah. So I can understand why you're interested in this card.
Yeah. Well, even like I was thinking about even the more practical stuff as well, because like, yeah, it's got Guardwell. And so if you're playing this alongside your Skullcap, let's say, right? One, if you get the 2 block out of it and you're playing against, I don't know, mechanologists or whatever, where they have access to T-Bone, Guardwell doesn't destroy this like, say, Temper or Blade Break. So you can just keep throwing this in front of things, right? It's not quite obviously as good as Battle Worn, but it's still as useful. And you still also have the Spell Void there. So in your hybrid matchups like Rune Blades, and it turns out we just had a new one printed, being able to block with this. Yeah, 2 new ones. Being able to block with this and then still also in a pinch use this to Spell Void, even if it's just a rune chant or, potentially more, I think is also very relevant. And then as I was saying before, when you combine this with the Skull Cap, you potentially have access to, if you can play the health game properly, having Spell Void 2 on top of like a blue pitch to cover 3 more. So just having, at any given point, 1 blue card representing essentially 5 arcane prevention is pretty relevant. I especially like this for classes where they either don't have the best defensive chest pieces, or they don't have to rely on Tunic to potentially like smooth out some options. I guess where I'm landing with this ultimately, like outside of the cheeky fun factor, is this could, I think, still be a fine sideboard option for a couple of different heroes or classes if you're pairing it with the Skull Cap.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of brings us back to that whole Skull Cap being good again or being useful again, and some of that is just because you're freeing up spots because Balance of Justice isn't really as required. Unless your brute matchup is rough, then if it's a way to smooth that out. And there's still some other like ancillary card draw out there, but Bolton still exists, I guess. But in general, the usefulness out of it from the Art of War decks and Tome of Divinity and stuff like that just isn't really a thing anymore. Like obviously, it's still using it against Illusionists because of Erudition and both the Herald and the Angel. So you still have use there, but ultimately, we have some open slots on a lot of decks, so we'll see some tinkering there. With the menacey whatever gone of the Art of War decks and such, you'll definitely see those kind of come. You'll see some new innovations that are just what was old is new again type of thing. We also, and I this made me start searching the internet because I didn't know I needed to find out. I could have swore they said they weren't going to make a playable Fable again, but apparently I was wrong.
I was gonna say I don't remember them ever saying that.
Yeah, apparently I was wrong because they did. Will of Arcana is a wizard resource gem. It's legendary. You can only have 1, thank God. When this is pitched, amp 1. That's the text.
Yeah. And it's a blue pitch.
Yeah, of course it is.
Like.
Right. Right. I mean, okay. Didn't Wizards already have a gem?
No. I mean, yes, but no. Like, you could argue that Heart and I were wizard gems in disguise, right? Heart saw play in Icelander. I obviously has seen play in Kano.
And Blaze.
And Blaze. I mean, very much so in Blaze. I could see a world, like I was actually thinking about this, and maybe this is the trick. If you're going to make playable Fables, then you got to trick somebody into playing like 4 of them so they have that many non-blocks. Because I could theoretically see a world where there's a version of Verdansk that does want to run like 3 gems.
Well, it definitely wants to run Heart of Final.
Right.
And it probably wants to run this because it's amp 2 in the deck.
Yeah.
You think it wants to run I
don't think so, but that's also so far. That's what I'm saying. I could see a world where, like, depending on whatever the next set is or what have you, we might get one more. This is
really good.
Yeah, it is interesting though.
Yeah, like this is really good, and maybe it's just a better psyop so that Kano has one more miss in its deck for Kano flips.
Well, I mean, Kano just freed up 2 spots anyway, so
that's true. Well, all right. They have the room, I guess. But they just got like 1,000 zaps to try to play too, though.
Zap
upside. Let's move on into sort of talk about the Majestics and everything else in the set. We're going to do our normal, pick 5 cards that you really love or think are interesting or want to talk about. Or because we're not going to do a full set review when Josh Scott's going to be on the show next week and we're recording on a Monday right now. No, absolutely not. I know that y'all are clamoring for fucking 4-hour shows or 8-hour shows or whatever. We are actual people with actual jobs outside of this. So no, we're not doing that. We'll give the people what they want, but in limited quantities, for fuck's sake. So Charmer, we're going to start with you. Let's break it down, buddy. What's your 5? What do you got?
Well, so first let me just say honorable mention the Assassin equipment suite. I'm not going to include that in my 5.
I thought that would be 4 of your 5.
No, like I thought about doing that, but like the reality is I'm very excited about that. It's going to replace all my Null Rune, and I jokingly said it to Logan, but I have ran AB5 in versions of like Fatigue Arachne in the past, and so being able to run AB5 and now have Force Spell Void on top of it feels almost like an injustice, but
also Swarty art.
Yeah, and it's massively, insanely just popping as Wardy art.
It's key art again, like you did before too.
Yep.
So, god damn it.
So anyway, shout out to the Widow set, but for my 5, like I said, I was trying to live vicariously and see the posts. One of the very first ones that like really got me hyped and I started thinking about maybe I do want to play Aurora was when I finally saw her specialization, Arc Lightning.
Yeah, it's on my list. So yeah.
It's first of all, again, art great. I kind of like that for whatever reason. Every time I see stuff with Aurora in it, it just feels comic booky, and yep. I dig that. But Arc Lightning, if you're curious about the text, it's a yellow pitch, costs 0. It's her specialization, only blocks for 2, and is a lightning rune blade action. However, whenever you go again this turn, deal 1 arcane damage to any target, and that part I think is very relevant. The next action card you play this turn gets go again. Also, this has go again. So you're going to deal 1 just from playing this. Then you're going to deal 1 when you play the next action card. And then because you've now like played this as a lightning rune blade, you've played a lightning, that's going to turn on her weapon, which will have go again, which will deal more damage. And the list goes on and on. I saw this. I was like, this is like so cool because it's a machine gun. I like that it truly feels like an arc lightning where it's just going to bounce around to a bunch of different targets if you're playing against anybody who has allies or other things that you might want to deal damage to. This really needed to be around in the days of Dromai for cleaning up some of those dragonlings, if you will.
The Ashwings.
Yeah, the I always think of them as dragonlings because they're like little whelps, but
they are.
Arc Lightning. So that one jumped out at me.
It's also a Shiana card.
It's also a Shiana card because it's a specialization. I kind of talked about some of these other ones already, but I'll still hit them again. Earth's Embrace, that was another one that jumped out at me as just being kind of absurd, and I kind of dig that this art was like stained glass-ish. It's a blue pitch, costs 1. It's an Earth action aura. Blocks for 2, but it has go again. And then at the beginning of your end phase, create an embodiment of Earth token. Then, if you haven't banished an Earth card this turn, destroy this. So it's kind of like the channel cards, but instead of having to pitch Earth cards or lightning cards or ice cards, you just have to banish an Earth card. Turns out both the new heroes care about banishing Earth cards already anyway.
They do it a lot.
So this has the potential to, I think, very easily stick around for 3 turns, maybe even on average. 3 turns assuming that, for the record, this doesn't get destroyed. I know that we had some cards that were introduced that'll destroy auras and whatever, but this also could get bounced back to your hand and then replayed to keep it going. Like it just feels kind of silly. Very defensive. Got the deck building juices going. The other two, again, I mentioned as well, gone in a flash. I love the art on this. Again, kind of comic booky, but in the best of ways. This is a lightning attack action. It's a red pitch, 0 cost, 4 attack, 3 block. When this attacks, the next time you play an instant card, this chain link, you may return this to its owner's hand. So if they throw some blocks in front of it, then you could just play an instant that maybe buffs your next attack or whatever, and then replay it now that they are down the cards to block. You could also, if they no block it, you could play an instant to buff it and then choose not to return it because it's a you may. There's just, again, so much versatility here. Fits my assassin play style. The other one I mentioned earlier, Eclectic Magnetism. It's a red pitch, 1 cost, lightning attack action. Attacks for 5, blocks for 3. When this attacks, you may play a non-attack action card, this chain link, as though it were an instant. So it's just like a free creepers activation in many ways. So as long as whatever you're playing is go again, then this essentially is go again because you're going to get your action point back, as well as doing a bunch of other silly things. And this is a 1 for 5. So very efficient. Almost feels like it's got like E-strike potential in the Aurora deck realistically.
Pump the brakes a little bit, but I get it. It's a block 3. It's a 1 for 5 block 3. I mean, like, yeah, okay,
it's a 1 for 5 block 3 that is essentially going to have go again every time, as well as likely let you do some other silly stuff. I don't know. I'm really high on it.
Okay.
The other two are generics. I'll start with the one that allows me to give the shout out to DM Armada. Cut through the facade. So I like this. This is a generic attack action. It's a red pitch, costs 3 but swings for 7, only blocks for 2, but this can't be defended by auras. There is a healthy amount of those now. And when this hits a hero, you may destroy an aura they control. I like this just because, it crosses some of the major things off my list when I'm looking at good generics, right? It's a 3 for 7. The 7's relevant because of the breakpoint stuff, relevant on hit. Obviously not as strong as say CNC with the can't play defense reactions, but still can't be defended by something is better than nothing. And also because it costs 3, I can give it dominate when I play Bravo. So I do always look for those things. I wanted to mention this, like I said, give the shout out to DM Armada because the art, I think the art is fantastic, but it's very clearly a pirate cutting through somebody.
It's definitely a pirate.
So we are getting that much closer to realizing our pirate dreams.
Yeah.
Steven, if you're listening, this goes out to you. We're that much closer to a pirate. The last one should be like no surprise because I saw so many memes in our Discord and I love all of you for it. 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Now you got to leave this one alone because I need this one.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say really quickly, and then I'll let you cover all the rest. This also is dominatable.
Oh yeah,
and definitely helps turn on Rouse the Ancients. So I saw this and I was like, man, this is a Bravo card at a minimum.
This is a lot of card.
I love this.
This is my number one. Like this is my stone cold lock for favorite card in the set for 1,000 reasons. And I ended up opening the extended art foil of this. There's an extended art foil and it's incredible. But let's start with the art. It's just a bunch of people of varying degrees of fucked upness at a bar, including a giant ogre who is, basically looks like Rhinar after a feast day. Mm-hmm. And it's perfect. Like it's Tomaz again, and it just gives me all the feels. Now, the text of the card is fucking stupid. It's a 3 cost, it's red pitch, 10 attack, 10 block. It block 10.
Yep.
And so when we talked about mechanics last week, I talked about intellect modification. as one of the things I want to see. Here it is. They were just ready for me. And when this attacks or defends, your hero gets -2 intellect during your next end phase, and then the capper is the flavor text, which is just worry about the hangover tomorrow. And A+. Everything about this card is A+. Now, in limited, this card is degenerately fun.
Oh, I'm sure.
I did not get the record. I missed it by 1 from witnessable records because I only came in with this with 13 rune chance behind it. Dagon had an opponent with 14 coming at Dagon with this thing. And the strategy was so easy playing for Dance with this card too, because it was just, okay, I drew it. Great. It goes in my arsenal. It's going to stay there for a while. And okay, now I'm going to empty your hand because if you don't, you die. And while I might get big dumb from this, I'm going to arsenal my life gain card. So on my turn, I'm just going to gain 5 and deal 1 and then arsenal another card. And then basically this was just my way to pivot to endgame in the deck, and it was a blast. But then all of the things about this card, one, if somebody's coming in with some giant dominated attack with a massive on hit, think Azalea, you can just go 10. Okay. Block 10. Or a crippling crush, block 10. And I'm going to have to discard 2 cards anyway, so I might as well be dumb for a turn. It's better that way. It's so perfect. So first of all, I just got done saying I really do think that every point of health is gonna matter here in the near future, as well as covering up very relevant on hits. This certainly does that. I do also just love the design in that this is a, you're putting the problem on layaway, right? For the young folks out there, layaway used to be this thing where when you would go to a store, you could like finance big purchases like a TV or something through the store. So like if you went and you bought like something from Kmart, you could put it on layaway. Kmart was a department store that existed before Walmart.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah. So anyway, this is like putting it on a credit card. We'll put it that way. You're saying, hey, this is too much for me now, so I'm going to hit my emergency button and then just hope that with my 2-card hand, whatever I have to deal with in the future is less problematic than whatever this thing is. So I do love that. It also allows, I think, in late game states where both players are in that kind of like knockdown, drag out, every point matters, and you're trying to figure out how do I get my crack back, right? Because we've all been there where, you and your opponent are at 2 health or less, and one of you is just either hoping the other person fumbles a draw, or you find a way to like block everything and then have enough to send back more. Having something like this where like they come in with like one big attack off their 2-card hand, and then you, as you said, you just put this down and you cover all of it, and now that gives you the edge. Like, yeah, you're going to be dumb in the future, but you're just hoping there is no future, right? Like when I saw this and I thought like, hey, I can dominate this with Bravo, I was like, man, I can't wait like till the end of the game where, I can go to 1, but I can rouse the ancients into a dominated this, right? That, in sub 10 health game states, that probably just wins you the game. Because even if the damage doesn't kill them, like you said, their hand is empty at that point. They're out of resources. And so like, yeah.
I've heard a 3-card 17 is good.
Yeah. You only have a 2-card hand, but they have a nothing. So that feels like a trade-off.
Yeah. And we even we're having some conversations with a bunch of the people that were there about the card. And it's like in Blitz, this is just backbreaking. It's, especially if it's in like any of the decks that can make an Embodiment of Lightning or can make it or have a Quicken token. And it's just like, okay, you draw your hand of 2 blues and 2 of these. 10, go again. 10. I'm dumb as a post after this. I'm 0 intellect, but I don't really give a fuck either. Like,
I will
you
say
don't
this.
have my hands.
I can't wait for like at Worlds in Osaka, someone to play a 10-foot tall bulletproof, and then have somebody electromagnetic somersault it back to their hand.
Whoop. Okay.
Now you're dumb and you didn't get
right. Well, I mean, you can do it and then arsenal it.
I mean, sure, but like, I don't know, man. Like, there's so many fun things that I think can potentially happen with this that
it's such a silly card, but it's also such a good design of just like, all right, how do we do something that has this incredible game busting effect, but at the same time balance it so that it isn't just always a backbreaking thing. And I think they strode the line really well. I think they straddled it perfectly. So, and it's in limited, it's just fun as fuck just to watch the look on your opponent's face and they're like, right, 10 foot tall, huh? All right, here's my hand. Okay, in a fatigue game where deck life matters too, perfect. A 1-for-4 is awesome, but the my second one is drink them under the table. To the shock of no one. It's a Betsy specialization. This one's fun as hell to me. It's 4 cost, 8 attack, 3 block. When this attacks a hero, you may wager with them, so it turns on Betsy's ability. The winner draws a card and the other hero discards a card.
Yeah.
Let's go get them.
So again, talking about fun things with 10 foot tall.
You can block this out. 1 card.
Oh man, you know what? That's also gonna be really
right. Playing wager 10 foot talls.
Wager 10 foot talls, but also when you've got like test of strength.
Oh sure.
Right. And you're clashing and you're just like, oh, here's my 10 attack.
Yeah, flip a 10. Like you might actually play this in Victor, to be honest. It might actually be playable in that deck. But it's just so much fun. Like this one's another one where it's okay. It's definitely built flavor wise. It's a 4 for 8, not a 3 for 8. But that also makes it so that it plays exactly into a 3-card hand with Betsy's ability.
Yep.
It makes all the wager stuff even better when you're causing discard effects. Like pummeling this is just the dream.
Yeah, I mean this is what she needed because she was really struggling. It's very easy to make the comparisons to Bravo's hero ability, right? So let me collect my thoughts for a moment because I almost sounded like fucking Donald Trump trying to talk about childcare for a moment. All right, so Bravo, OG Guardian, very much built around attacks that cost 4, and then you pay the 2 extra to do the dominate. Like we've all seen it a million times. Betsy, when she was released, I think it's natural to draw that comparison because she is a guardian who you pay 2 extra for and you get some sort of evasion tacked on. Now hers is overpower, which is arguably not as powerful as dominate, but she does get the +1 attack. The big difference though is that Bravo could kind of just apply dominate to anything like a 10 foot tall or whatever, or I mean anything he was running, obviously not anything, but anything that he was going to be running anyway. Whereas she specifically needs things to wager, so she's more restrictive. And so if she's going to have a similar play pattern, and I do understand that they want her to have her own identity, and I think that is very admirable, but ultimately, like, you baked it into her hero power. She's going to have some similarities. So she needs more cards like this. I think this is a step in the right direction. I would like to see some more Guardian stuff that also still has wager that maybe isn't a specialization directly, but I can understand why this one was because the effect is so powerful. But this was sorely needed for her.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think this is really good, just in general for Betsy. I also just love the card. I think that the flavor's perfect. The name is great. Everything just works for this card for me. My third was actually Arc Lightning. We've already kind of done the deep dive on that one, but it's for all the same reasons. Plus, it's a Shiana card. So is Drink 'em Under the Table, technically. But in this case, I feel like with Arc Lightning, just your ability to have just kind of unlimited versatility off of one card feels pretty powerful. Like, you're dealing a lot of arcane, you're hitting all the buttons with go again. It's kind of just your, okay, deal with this card. And I like that. I think that that's how a specialization should feel.
It's also something I kind of glossed over. Like I mentioned all the things when I read the text when I covered it, but this is kind of a universal activator for her because it's a lightning card. So all your stuff that care about whether or not you played a lightning card are already turned on. It's also a non-attack action. So because this is obviously giving your next action card go again, if you're following this up with an attack action card, all of your traditional Runeblade stuff, if you're including some of that, is also turned on because now you've played your non-attack and your attack. We've seen a lot of stuff that care about go again. This card itself cares about go again, but a lot of other stuff also cares about go again. And this turns all of that on as well. Like, this is truly like the universal activator for anything she cares about doing.
Right. Yep. And it's perfect for that. I'm very happy that it's an Aurora specialization because this in LL Briar would be absolutely busted in 27 pieces. My next card on this one is actually Plow Under. One of my favorite Magic cards.
It was mine too.
Yeah, fuck them. Get those lands on top of your deck, homeboy.
I like playing the game, and I like it when you don't play the game.
I like it when you don't get to. So Plow Under is a yellow pitch, which is kind of weird for this one. It's a 2 cost, 2 attack, 3 block. But this is also, if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banished zone, this gets +4 attack. So it's a 2 for 6 block 3. Where have we heard that before? But again, being a yellow pitch makes a big difference here.
Yep.
And this has Decompose staple to it. When this attacks, do the Decompose thing. So 2 Earth cards and an action card. If you do, each hero puts a card from their arsenal on the bottom of their deck. So it has a pseudo CNC. It's not non-hit. It's just a pseudo CNC effect if you've decomposed. Like A+. And it's also when this attacks. So if there's a defense reaction in the arsenal, they don't get a chance to use it prior to this putting it on bottom. Like, A fucking plus. Like, this is devastatingly good. Once you have half of your decompose turned on, there's really nothing more to say here outside of, like, this is just a really good rate. And a yellow pitch is a big deal because this can one of these can play the other one, plus still has the block 3 attached to it. I think this as a long, as an Earth, Earth kind of getting access to sort of a 6 CNC package is really good for the element and such. It's also a little scary.
See, when I saw this, I felt like it really should have had 2 block, not for necessarily any balance reasons, but just because I needed all 4 corners to be a 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. It's not like that, but I do understand the symmetry. I do get that does matter. My last card, and I want to make sure that everybody does understand that my favorite card in this set is Unsheathed. It's not close, but we've already talked about that once, when it was spoiled originally. So I didn't want to go back to the well on that one. So instead I just made sure to pick stuff that we hadn't talked about yet or hadn't seen yet. So my last card for this list is Succumb to Temptation. And it's not just because it's very horny looking, but that does go on the list.
I have thoughts about that. I will say after you're done.
So it's a 0 cost Runeblade action, yellow pitch, 3 block with go again. If you've dealt arcane damage this turn, you may play this as though it were an instant. So back to that whole shenanigan things. The next time a Runeblade attack action card you control hits a hero this turn, look at their hand and choose a card. They discard it. You Thoughtseize their dumbass.
Yep.
That's fucking great.
And again, as long as you've dealt arcane damage, you can play this as an instant. So you could play this after they've no blocked. Yeah, because it's the next time one hits, right? It's not the next action you play, etc. So you can absolutely stack this on as a gotcha.
Yep, and but it does have to be a Runeblade card. That is important, to note.
Yeah.
So it can't be just your generic. It can't be like a CNC. It has to be. It has to be or a Plow Wonder. Actually, it has to be a Runeblade card.
Yeah,
but
like
there
just
are
a meet and greet.
A meet and greet sounds great, or a Vantage Point, which is a 3/7 overpower. If you've created an aura this turn, like that might hit. Very well could. So I think that this is one of those sort of sneaky ones that's going to get people in the long run. Also, being able to play this as an instant with Go again, it gives the ability to throw another attack behind it because it's effectively going to give the attack you're coming in with Go again. So if they have covered it up, then you get to then come behind it. So if they've used the majority of their hand, they kind of have to use all of it now.
Yeah. I was just about to say, so this card feels like a blowout because even when your attack isn't hitting, as you said, it's still going to provide Go again, and it is just the next time a Runeblade attack action card hits, so it's blanket for the rest of the turn. So now you are essentially forcing them to commit like all of their cards.
Right.
There's really no way around it because or at least enough to make sure they're covering blocking everything, because anything where they're saying like, hey, I like my hand, I'll just eat the damage. Well, now you don't like your hand anymore. The other reason that I like this card is because, again, a lot of times if you do catch somebody when they no block and then you get to do this at instant speed, a lot of times they're no blocking because they really like their hand. And now you can see why they liked their hand and cause the most harm possible. So this card is one of those ones where I feel like when it works, it's going to feel like a blowout every time. And there's going to be a lot of times where people will draw this, but because the timing isn't right to play this, opponents will never see the effects of it not working, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I suspect, because my experience, I played a lot of card games, I suspect that this card will be a very polarizing card in terms of like people will say that it's just unfun or blah, 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 because you're only ever going to experience the blowouts, because like when it works, it's really going to work. And every time it doesn't work, they're probably not going to know that it was even an issue, right. Really. So
yeah. That makes sense.
Real quick on the horny thing though. The pirate was a shout out to DM Armada. I think this is our shout out to personally me and Mara, because we've been saying that we want our vampires and our werewolves, and very specifically like the horny vampires and werewolves.
This is it.
You can't tell me that's not what this is. Like,
no,
if there was ever somebody who was a vampire in all of Flesh and Blood, it's this character. You can't convince me otherwise.
No, this is a horned out, blood drinking vampire. No two ways. So, yeah, I think you're right. Any other quick hitters you want to do on the cards before we move to the next thing?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, I think that for the record, if you haven't seen all of the spoilers or checked out the set, you really should. We just kind of picked 5 of our favorites, but there's still some really good stuff that we didn't talk
absolutely.
about that we'll likely see play. So go check it out.
Yeah, because there's the Runeblade block card, Haunting Rendition, which is also just has the ability to prevent the next 2 damage by discarding it, and then you make a rune chant if you did. Like versatility. So block 4 or against a wizard or another Runeblade, you just prevent the next 2, not the next 2 that a source would deal. That would be dealt. So
I was also thinking of stuff like Snuff Out.
Snuff Out's fantastic.
So like I covered the generic, hey, this like destroys an aura, but for Runeblades, they get Snuff Out, which I think is incredibly efficient at trying to destroy auras. It's non-conditional, just straight up on hit, destroy an aura. Oh, and if you did, then they have to discard a card too. It's a 1 for 5. Like,
it's a big ol' ass kicking is what it is. I actually had that in my first sealed pool, and I hit somebody like slammed their a channel Millennium Tree, and I'm just like, wonder if there'd be no blocks. And they did. They had a lot of no blocks. And then they didn't have a Millennium Tree. Like, yeah, that works. Cool. Good to know. So moving on, like the World Championship packages sort of got released, right? Like, so we know what's in them now. I kind of want to just go to the larger discourse about this. So like content wise, so you have what is effectively a $500 package out there that is a Japanese box of heavy hitters, a set of alt art playmats for Ira and New and a Viscera and Dory, I think, a Japanese box of heavy hitters, a 5th anniversary pack, a special edition deck box, and so basically a very large package you could buy was like, I think it was 70,000 yen or something like that. So like $500, but or maybe it was more than that. I can't even, 120,000 yen, I think maybe, but either way, it doesn't matter. Immediately you saw those like getting turned around and sold for like $750. So people were just like snapping up as many as they could, obviously trying to limit quantities, and you could just go through a variety of accounts as long as you have other people, gem IDs, and then flipping them for like high amounts of profit, for profit immediately. So, I wonder if the execution could have been better on that. Doesn't really matter either way, but people are, at the end of the day, if people see an avenue to profit, they're probably going to do it. Like, makes sense. But I do want to talk about a lot of the things that we are going to see there that we already know. So first off is we do get something that we've been clamoring for a while, which is we finally get adult Ira. It's just legitimately Ira's ability, but 40 health. Ira Scarlet Ravager, and she is going to be actually legal for Worlds, from what I read, which is bonkers to me.
Yeah,
because Fatigue Ninja is a thing, if you didn't know, and the best Ninja Turtle deck ever was always Ira.
Yeah, let me start by saying I think this is actually really cool, and I do. I hope that it's true that she is playable at Worlds, because it's obviously been a very big deal to bring the Japanese player base into the fold as far as Flesh and Blood is concerned. They've made a concerted effort. I think it's very apparent this year. They had the one event there already for the part the Mistveil, obviously going back there for Worlds. I think that it's the right thing, because it's also something that just people have wanted since really the game launched, right? I mean, most of us, we were introduced to the game with an Ira welcome deck, and we've never been able to play adult Ira. And so as we talk about celebrating 5 years and doing it in Japan for Worlds and all of these things, I think that on top of that, how cool is it going to be to see Iras on the broadcast, right? When you think about that, I love it. So that being said, I had missed that the packages were live. Like, I saw that the stuff was out there, but I didn't realize that it was the World's packages. So, we need to speed up the show so I can go buy mine.
I don't think there are any. So, there's that problem. They did restock the Fabled packages, but like the big dog $500 all the things packages, I'm pretty sure those are gone.
I assumed that they were just going to limit it by like Gem ID or something, but
they did. But again, a lot of people were buying them as with an avenue to then have somebody sponsor it for more than they paid for it. And that way, so basically everybody just saw it as somebody else is going to pay me more for this than I'm going to pay for it, because they're not going to be at Worlds and I am. And so I think that happened a lot, because they did go away very quickly. And I saw a lot of people selling sponsorships or buying sponsorships online within the course of that time. So I think that they sold out very quickly. But I think they did restock the Fabled packages though for people and stuff like that. So At least those are out there. But there was a limited number. I don't even remember the number, but there was a very limited number of the top end celebration package or whatever it was called. But yeah, if that's still there though, you should get it. It's really cool, and it does come with waifu promos, and so you can get.
I'm gonna have to talk to somebody's manager, Josh.
Yeah, right.
I'm not trying to scam. I want it for me.
But you can get waifu Viscerai, waifu Dorinthia, waifu Nu, and
the new and the
Ira.
Ira would be because those would be the ones I'd be most likely to play.
Yeah, I think you can get those without getting the super package though. If I remember correctly, I would have to go look.
So yeah, so the reason I didn't realize the packages were out was because I had just heard that there were going to be promo events, just like there are
promo events.
Yeah, and so I thought that that's what those were.
Yeah, there was the souvenir package that had the playmat sleeves, deck box, Dorinthia, Nu, Viscerai, and then a 5th anniversary pack that has Ira in it. I think is the thing that we're talking about here. So, let me double check this, I guess, because there's no reason for me not to. Yada yada, Gearful, World Championship, Sigil of Brilliance is okay. That's really cool. Packages. There's so there's the 70,000 yen one, which actually would still get you, which gets you 5th anniversary pack. I think you can still buy the 70,000 yen one. I think that would give you everything you wanted. So yeah, you should go buy that. Do it now. And then
I'll do it in a bit.
Yeah,
I went as far as the site, and then it was like having me kick like Google Translate in and stuff, and I'm like, I
didn't want to deal with it.
I mean, it's not like it's usually that difficult. It's just one of those things too.
We'll get some quick hitters so you can go do this then. In Blitz, we're saying goodbye to Reinar. So
yes.
from
kind of surprised it took this long.
Oh yeah, and so from this season we lost Zen at record speed, Dash, Briar, Reinar. I believe that was it. That we lost this season. So Romping Club also goes away. But yeah, your now banned in Blitz list is Briar, Chain, Dash, Ira, Icelander, Kano, Kasai, Centauri, Sellsword, Oldhim, Reinar, Viscerai, and Zen. So Briar, Dash, Reinar, and Zen were the ones that exited the format this time around. So good riddance to all of them. Outside of Briar. Briar could have stuck around. I think would have been fine with that. But moving on. It looks like the next one. Oof. Victor is super close. He gained 370 points this season. So Victor is the next closest, followed by Dorinthia, Bravo, and then quite a ways behind there, Prism, and then Blaze. So Blaze also racked up 220. Like, she almost got halfway home. You ready for some listener questions?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The first one's from Ravager King, which is Benny. So people should always take anything that he asks with a giant grain of salt. In light of the recent bans, if you could draw 2 of anything, what would they be? Mine would be a pair of boobies, preferably blue-footed, because he's making a bird joke. And he does know a lot about bird law, don't get me wrong. But he's also just Benny. But if you could draw 2 of anything, what would it be?
It would be 2 new companions to follow me along the path of the beam. I would like to draw Jake Chambers and Oi. I'm going to need them when I have a conversation with Blaine the Mono. Because you have the drawing of the 3, but then you had the 2 more, and they were really important, so...
Okay. Okay. I was going to do something simple like a pair of aces or, um,
I mean, what's more simple than companionship, my friend?
companionship is never simple. Ever. No, that's not how that works. What is simple about you and I? Nothing. Nothing simple. See?
Yeah, I got nothing.
There it is. Moving on. Poxonus asks, all right, if we could ban hero abilities, what would they be and how backwards could we make an errata to fix said hero? So I think the question here, if you could ban a hero ability, which one would you ban?
I would ban the ability to have the class illusionist on your card.
It's not a hero ability.
All right. It's interesting because there's not really like any hero abilities that really bother me. It's usually stuff that's in their kit. I guess I would say Chain, but he's already a living legend, so whatever. But like when I think about the heroes where it's their hero ability that's the most egregious, essentially a free-ish go again every turn is probably the most exploitable, but none of the actual hero abilities themselves really bother me. It's usually what they have in their card pool that they can do with it.
I'd probably ban Kanos. I've died to a lot of Kano.
I mean, I have two, but like, yeah, the hero ability helps, but it's also like, if he didn't have things that allowed him to exponentially grow the damage, then it wouldn't be a problem, right? It would just be
That's
cheeky.
True. Then ban Dash Inventors. No free item.
Yeah.
Making a errata to fix that here. I mean, like Dash doesn't need fixed. I mean, Dash is fine. Fix Kano, but I think you're right. I think it's the kit. It's not the ability. Kind of looking at the list, it's like I don't know that there's any actual hero ability that is that egregious anymore.
So here's one that I want. Here's one that I want errated. All right. I want Briar to say, for each time you hit, you can make an embodiment of Earth token.
Strong.
Instead of just once per turn.
Yeah, strong. I think that one is. Sure. Yeah, I'm into it. Sounds great. That would never cause a problem. I guarantee it.
But it would fix the hero.
Yeah, I was trying to think through this. With even the new heroes, like I wouldn't errata Florian or Vidance. I think that in 8 decompose, actually in limited, I would almost errata them both to be 6 and not 4. 4 can get turned on really fast, and when that happens, you just feel like you can't get over it unless you like match them in speed. To getting to their ability, because once it's turned on, especially if they have things like Thistle Bloom Life or any of the like the rune chant generators that do multiple instances of generation, it gets out of hand really fast. So I would consider making that 6 instead of 4, especially since the decomposes banish 3 anyway. So you can still theoretically get there on 2 decomposes. It would just put a strain on the resources to do so with what is already in the graveyard. So I'd consider that as something I would like that could be changed. Now, my opinion on errata is still the same. The card should do what it is printed to do. That's just my feeling on cards. If you don't like what it does, ban it. But don't make people have to go read something else to understand what a piece of cardboard that they're holding does. That is the ultimate feels bad to me. So no erratas, please. Last question is from Justin S. Do you support book banning? Do you have any other books you would like to see banned? So in real life, no, of course I don't support book banning. Books are important, and I feel like the aggressive stance that's been taken by people to ban books lately is a complete and utter travesty, and it's making our country and our world a worse place. In Flesh and Blood context, I think we made it pretty clear where we stood on the bans, and that we think it's ultimately a good thing for the health of the game. I don't know that I have anything else that I would like to have banned. As far as the effects, I can kind of understand Blood Rush Bellow, but it's it's really, if you took Blood Rush Bellow away from Brute, would Brute even be playable in general? And but otherwise, no, I think everything's fine.
First of all, let me just say, I think it's a little bit weird that they banned books, but you can still go check them out from the library. Like, why is the Great Library still a thing if the books aren't allowed?
We should actually ban library. You're right.
I'm just saying, it's card draw. All right, jokes aside, the only book that I would be interested in banning would be like the DSM-5, but that's because it impacts me personally, and I don't need more people getting any ideas.
But then you have to go by the DSM-4.
I don't have to.
Well, then at the same time, you don't have to go by the DSM-5, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I guess.
So yeah, that's it. No ban books. Like, yeah, no. Even books by shitty humans with shitty ideologies are things we can learn from. So, just saying. Yeah, that's all I got this week. Yeah, anything else?
No, I guess the only thing I have left to do is now write an email to like Josh and Alex and be like, hey, why can't I buy this package?
I think you can. I think I said I thought I saw it there.
No, I want the cool thing because I like the deck box. Now that
they had the deck box.
Now that I've actually looked it up, what? No, like,
but I had the deck box. Could have sworn I had the deck box. Am I just wrong? I mean, that would be the first time even like ever.
I don't know. I went to registration and then there was like packages, right? So like just on a whim, because they still have it up for purchase, I was like, hey, purchase here for the souvenir package. And they're like, hey, it's sold out.
Oh, you got.
And so then I was like, all right, well, let me go check like the Fabled event package, and that's there, like you said, but it's not that deck box, as far as I can tell, is different from.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You probably should you got to send somebody an email then. I got another letter for you. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start getting out of here by thanking our patrons. We have our associate producers, Andy, Sindra, Jacob, and the Salty Sea Cat, and our executive producers on up, Blaze Storm, value member of the Patreon. Dom Lance, good thrust. Matt Tutokes, Poxunus, Vintox, annoying little brother, Fap never wanted. Papa Mike, Philip, Rich, and Sergeant Swanson. If you are interested in becoming a member of our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link is in your show notes. There are some number of tiers, and any paid tier will get you into listen and hang out in the Fap After Dark, which is just a little live thing we do with people once a month. Hang out for a couple of hours, talk shop, completely unrecorded, so that we can say shit that we sometimes don't feel ultra comfortable saying, not because it's bad and we're terrible or anything like that, but because we can just be a little more unfiltered with our takes, and we'll maybe spill some tea that we just don't want to spill publicly. If you need to contact the show, you can always reach out to us, fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at FleshPod. But the best thing to do is hop in our Discord. Links in the show notes. So just look there, click on the thing, do the thing, enter the thing, and then I will wave to you when you get in. Darick, where can they find you?
They can find me writing a strongly worded email.
Karen Oswald, back at it.
Listen, I need to speak to the manager. No, you can find me in the Discord. That's usually the best place to find me, posting shenanigans about pickles in the Pickle Posse channel, as well as in the Nonsense channel. I post those two places more than anywhere else.
The Pickle channel's been getting disturbing lately. What the fuck?
I posted that TikTok of the pickle guy here from Michigan, and then what was funny was after I sent it in our Pickle channel, my buddy who lives in New York sends me the same video on TikTok. He's like, "Man, you Michiganders are weird." And I was like, "Yeah, we're
something.
We're a different breed." So yeah, you can find me there. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all the places. You can find me there as well. I will be at Worlds, so if you see me there, say hello. And I am currently also planning on being at the Calling in Chicago one way or another. So you can potentially see me there as well.
But what about Battle Hard Milwaukee?
What's the date on that one?
September 29th, 3 weeks from now?
29th. A Sunday?
Well, I mean, that's the Sunday. So it'd be like 28th, 29th. Yeah.
I don't think I'm at that one.
But you could be.
I mean, I could be. So the problem is that I feel if I showed up, it would be like late because, like I said, I have work stuff starting for the next couple of weeks that are going to be problematic.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Late. You've shown up late to places before. It's okay.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
Remember that one time I showed up late to an event because I got pulled over like a block away?
Yeah, but that's because that road, like, it's a fucking highway that's a 35. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Any place here in Michigan, it's a 45 minimum. Usually they're like a 55.
Yeah.
But
yeah, fucking Ohio, let me tell you.
Ohio.
But, yeah, so if you need to contact me directly, you can find me on Twitter at Logan Peterson. You can, or just find me in the Discord. It just join the Discord. It's the easiest way. So do three things: like and subscribe on YouTube, and join the Discord. That's it. Those are the three things. Like, subscribe, join. Do those three things. You can comment if you want to, but that one's up to you. But yeah, I got nothing else. I know that we have to get prepared now to have Josh on next week because that'll get long. And Josh will probably want to beat his previous record, knowing him. So yeah. So in that case, we'll talk to you next week for episode 146, and I think I'll see you in Milwaukee, even if Darick doesn't. But he should. He really should consider it.
I'll consider it all day long.
All right, fine. I mean, fuck you. Bye.